Hey everyone, this is Nick from Bruto Bello and Carillon Audio Blog. I'm going to show you how I'm going to deconstruct this pat. Hey everyone, this is Nick from Bruto Bello and Carillon Audio Blog. I'm going to deconstruct this trumpet patch that I've built on my Deepmind 12. Cool, so there's a little example of it. Let me show you what I did to create this patch. Essentially, it's a pretty easy patch. It's just a single note. As you can see by the voices up here, it's a single note. It's not doubled in unison or anything. It's saw, so there's very little going on there. The level of oscillator 2 is set to 0. We have a little bit of noise to emulate some of the sound that happens when a trumpet player blows through the mouthpiece. It creates some extra noise. The filter's pretty cut down. We've got a little bit of the envelope applying to the filter, and of course velocity sensitivity, so the harder I play, the more the filter opens up, as well as a little bit of keyboard tracking so that the higher notes have a more open filter. Let's see what else I've got going on here. I also have a little bit, you can't see it there, just a teeny pinch of aftertouch going to the pitch modification. So when I lean into that note, it gives a little bit of vibrato. And we have a basic amount, a default amount of pitch modulation happening at all times, just because no trumpet player can play a perfect note. But where all the interesting stuff happens, of course, with the Deepmind is the envelopes and the mod matrix. You can do some really great stuff with this synth that, as far as I know, you can't really do with a lot of hardware synths, so it does live up to its name. Let's look at what we've got going on here. So again, I've got even a little bit more note velocity going to the filter. Not necessary. I could probably route that back in the filter itself, just give a little bit more velocity sensitivity, but it's set up the way I like it right now. I've got an expression pedal, which I have opening up the filter just slightly, 21, and I also have the expression pedal up, turning up the effect level of 4, number 4, and what that does is just adds a little bit of a volume, so when I use my expression pedal, I get the filter opening up and a little bit more volume. So I can do some things that have a little bit of a build to it. It's not quite as dynamic as like a real orchestral instrument, which I'd have to finesse it a little bit more to get there. But one of the main things that this keyboard allows you to do in the mod matrix is to do some interesting things like this. I've got a third envelope, our mod envelope, and what that's modifying is the depth of mod matrix slot number 4 here. Mod matrix slot number 4 is using an LFO2, which is set to a sample and hold at a pretty fast frequency, to go and affect the cutoff frequency. So what's happening is a very quick agitation of that filter frequency, and it creates a sort of little, well, you'll hear it. Let me add it up, or turn it all the way up so you can really hear the effect. So it kind of adds this little jumble at the beginning, and that happens when a trumpet player blows. They would kind of not immediately attack and hit that note straight on. It kind of, creates this weird little thing that happens on trumpets. So let me take it out. And that's what you're going to get on most synths and keyboards and stuff like that. But when I add a little bit of that in, that gives that little bit of realism that you don't get otherwise. And then I also have done something which I love to do. I think I stole this idea from my Korg DSS-1, which allows you to set note the that reset itself. The note velocity can take away some of the attack time. So if you look over at my VCA, it's set to 62, so it has a slow attack when I play slowly, or when I play quietly, I should say. It kind of slowly attacks. When I play harder, it has a nice clean attack. So what it's doing over with the mod matrix is reducing this attack time by whatever I've got it set to, -24. So it's changing that by -24, so it's a much quicker, and I could even go all the way to 61, so that so that's something I love to do with these types of sounds, just to have a little bit more creativity when you're playing live with it. You have some subtleties so that all the notes don't attack exactly the same, and you can play soft and quiet. You can use your expression pedal. You can do all of these things to make it sound like a real instrument. This thing's never going to rival a multi-sampled trumpet patch that's got all the different articulations and all that, but it can sound pretty good. I've done some mock-ups with it and thrown it in just to hear what it sounds like in context, and you would not know that it's an analog synthesizer making these sounds. And then the one last thing let me get to here is the effects. Of course, this thing's got some great effects. The 4-band EQ I utilized to help shape the sound to make it, sound more like a trumpet. Essentially, you've got trumpets and they've got their own resonances and weird things that happen. And the Deepmind only has a low-pass filter or a high-pass filter, but it doesn't have these types of band-pass filters and other filters that you get in an EQ. So what I've done is I've dropped off some of the low end, because trumpets don't have a lot of low end. I boosted up 16 decibels at 329, because when I compared my patch to a real sample of a trumpet, the trumpet seemed to have this low mid-rangey frequency in there, so I wanted to emulate that. I also cut the kind of slightly low mid-highs right here, and then boosted up the high frequencies just to add a little bit more sheen to it. And then it's going through a basic Hall reverb. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of what you could do with your patches if you've got a Deepmind, or what you could do with a different synthesizer. You don't necessarily have to have this to try and replicate these real sounds using analog synthesis. Well, thanks for watching. Again, I'm Nick from Well, thanks again for watching. I'm Nick from Brutabello and Carillon Audio Blog. Keep having a good time and making music. Bye.